Welcome to Speak of the Devils, the premier podcast for Sun Devil football. I'm Brad Denny with 3TV.
And I'm Joe Healy with DevilsDigest.com.
Joe, we have been very candid in our picks throughout the years. And, we'll always pick the Sun Devils if we think they'll win, pick against them if we think they'll lose. I can't remember a time I think that we were so far off base in such a good way.
My goodness. Like we talked about last week on the show, when I made my scoreboard prediction, I said, I don't know that in the 14 plus year history of this show, if I've ever picked ASU to lose by as substantial a margin as I predicted them to lose against Texas Tech. I am not quitting my day job, folks. What an afternoon of football in Mountain America Stadium for the Sun Devils. A crucial clutch victory over top 10 ranked at the time Texas Tech. It takes the season from feeling like it's on the brink of nearly falling apart, putting you right back in the conversation for those lofty goals that ASU had to start the season. A potentially shape-shifting win for this program, which is to be celebrated. But that said, the celebration can't rage on for too long because ASU has a real tough test coming back to Tempe, and we know how these hangover type of games can happen when you have such a resounding victory over a nationally ranked team. So there's a lot to focus on and a lot for us to discuss.
I was a little bit more optimistic than you in the game prediction last week, and I still had them losing by 17. I think it was like 38-21 or something like that. But yeah, wow. They came out and they shut a lot of people up. And we'll dive into that exactly, how the Sun Devils were able to pull off the 26-22 win over, at the time, number 7 Texas Tech, and a win that it got ASU back into the top 25. We'll also be looking ahead because there is no rest in the Big 12. 6-1 Houston is coming to town. They're also in that Big 12 title race as well. Ryan Monceaux of GoCougs.com is going to come in and give us an inside look at what Houston's been doing to turn around their season in year 3 in the Big 12. We'll also be talking to a trio of key Sun Devil players. Wide receiver Jaren Hamilton getting on the board his first 100-yard game. Safety Boogie Wilson has just been absolutely lights out on the back end. And starting center Makua Pule stepping in a tough situation and playing some good ball there. But Joe, let's dive into some news. You got $50,000 just lying around that you want to donate?
Sure. I mean, can you break a $1 million bill? If you can give me some change, let's make that happen.
All right, because ASU's got to pony up 50 large for the fine that the Big 12 levied on them today for the field storm. I think everybody's cool with that.
You got to find some business owner like what BYU has a guy from Crumble. I saw that Reddit CFP. It's I thought it was allegedly makes cookies or something. Like that.
Okay, so I saw the cookie guy. It was like that was the caption. I didn't know it was the Crumble man.
And I guess he was in the locker. I mean, he must be a big dog over there. Yeah, he's basically saying how he's going to pay for that for them. So
good cookies.
You know what? Whoever's in that wants to step up, go for it. But yeah, I'm sure all things considered, when you got that outcome and that's what occurs, you can cough up that sort of thing. And man, what a scene that was. Very, very reminiscent, of course, of the BYU game last year, when you just see these awesome recap videos and drone footage and things, the awesome scene of a fall afternoon in Tempe, like that game was. Just a lot of similarities there. One that, ASU was ahead and then let it back in and seemed like they're almost ready to cough it up at the last minute. Again, some similarities between those two games. But in the end, if it's a $50,000 price tag for that experience, then I'm sure they'll be able to take care of that.
And unlike BYU, they only had to storm the field once, so it was nice. Good stuff there. Also, we should mention that ASU is now in the top 25, now number 24 in the AP poll after their win. So of course they got knocked out after the Utah loss and received no votes in that situation, but made all the way back up into the poll. So I know some fans like the whole we're underdogs and all that stuff, but this is about the time last year where it's like ASU got back in the polls and they never left and they kept that drive up. So if you want to have those lofty expectations, folks, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, and this week you really got to end the Abe Simpson gif of him, walking in the door, putting the hat up, putting the hat on, and walking back out. That's what it's been in the AP poll these last few weeks. You go from ranked to unranked to ranked, and again, if you lose again, that would be the case. I was pleasantly surprised by that. Just looking through it, I was thinking that Utah game, it just seemed like there were a lot of voters who were like we're high on ASU to begin the season, almost maybe begrudgingly so. And then when ASU started to dip a little bit, they really punished them for that. And it would probably take a lot for them to get back in the good graces, more than just a win over a top 10 team, especially after that Utah loss. So I thought that ASU would have to probably go out and win this week to get themselves back into the ranking. So again, a pleasant surprise. And yeah, I mean, to your point, I get the mentality of the whole we want to be underdogs thing. We don't want expectations thing. But as you mentioned, you're 7 games into the season. It's not a preseason ranking. It's not something where, oh, there are months of time for us to get this figured out and get in the rankings. You're kind of entering crunch time here in this, you're beyond the midway point of the season. And as you mentioned, it's talked about similarities from this year to last year with that BYU and Texas Tech game. The 7-game mark last year was the point at which ASU lost its second game of the regular season. And so they were 5-2. And as we know how history unfolded from that point forward, they didn't lose again until the college football playoff. So it's kind of a really interesting milestone checkpoint in the season to compare the 2 years. So you very much want to be in the national rankings and these sort of things, sort them out one way or another as the season unfolds. But again, it's an interesting ride from here when you get that win against Texas Tech and you go to take 3 of those first 4 games in Big 12 play. I think is a really, really big deal. Entering the season, I would have been thrilled with the split. And so now you take 3 out of 4. That's a very big deal. Again, we'll break down last week's game. We'll look ahead to this coming weekend as well. But man, big stuff there. And good to be in the national rankings. But again, depending on what you do this weekend, you could just keep that old Abe Simpson give going around week after week, back and forth, or you could really start making some progress.
All right, so of course, taking down the number 7 team in the country takes some good individual efforts as well as a team effort, and some Sun Devils were recognized by the Big 12 for their performance. Jordan Tyson, Big 12 Offensive Player of the Week, just really kind of put the team on his back there late in the ball game and got things done. And Jesus Gomez, just doing Jesus Gomez things for the 3rd time so far, was the Special Teams Player of the Week as he connected on all 4 of his field goal attempts. Now he's getting too much work, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But when he's called upon, he's been absolutely nails.
Yeah, I believe at this point right here as we record, he's tied for the national lead in field goal attempts on the year. So it's great that he's making them. It's great that he's getting these awards. But as we know, I mean, the reality of the situation is he's being used too much. When we say he's being used too much, that means that ASU is not doing a proper job of converting red zone opportunities into touchdowns, and you're calling in your place kicker in more often than you should. But again, he's continuing to make them. He had that little rough stretch against TCU, but he got it done as well. And heck, I think he got the same award for that, even though he missed a couple kicks in that game. He just had the game winner, which helped. So that's a big deal right there. Jordan Tyson, man, I mean, gosh, what else can you say? I'm trying to think of maybe other than like that 2018 game against USC, although it was a lot of special teams. You don't think of many the Jail Mary game, of course, a wide receiver putting the team on his back kind of thing. Like that is a little bit more rare than a quarterback or running back like Scadaboo. But what, JT did as far as, getting that touchdown, and I think kind of mocking his injury condition with the celebration, though I'm still kind of perplexed. And then just that incredible 4th down catch and run for a 1st down, the critical play on that drive that produced the game-winning touchdown for ASU. I mean, you could see he was hampered, but he still got some yak there. I know a lot of folks are thinking, man, he would have taken it the distance if he were of full health. Well, I guess we'll never know on that one, but that was such an incredible play. And, not the first time that he's made a critical 4th down play in the 4th quarter of a game here. So just keeps adding to the legend of Jordan Tyson week after week. Now, the point of emphasis now is wondering how he is. As we saw, he was banged up at the end of that game. So we have to wait and see if that is something that still lingers to this week. And if so, to what degree, because again, that's something to keep in mind.
All right. So that's to our next bullet point, the injury report. Now, of course, ASU does have the media reporting policy in terms of injuries. And also Big 12 has the injury reports that start on Wednesday evenings. Kenny has said that there were 4 players in practice today. Did see them. And that but we cannot necessarily name names, but you can kind of read between the lines in terms of the Jordan Tyson. We'll see how he progresses. I can say that Prince Dorba, who did go down in the Texas Tech game, was practicing. He looked looked pretty good, was participating in drills to a degree. So good to see Prince out there as well. So as we record this on Tuesday evening, we're kind of limited in what we can say in terms of just, adhering to the media policy, but we will get some further public clarification when the report drops on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Arizona time. Not having Jordan Tyson out there would be a huge blow, but we've seen this offense do some things, and Sam Levitt really kind of take some steps forward in terms of being without a security blanket, and we'll touch upon his growth there. But Tyson's leading the conference in receptions, receiving yards per game, receiving touchdowns, receptions for first downs, and 15+ yard receptions. So I think that's pretty decent chunk of production.
About as clean sweep as you can probably get. Yeah, I mean, he's someone that if you did like a mid-season Biletnikoff award, he would, in my opinion, certainly be a finalist and a strong candidate as just about anybody to win that award. I mean, he's been everything and more. It's unbelievable what he's done in this couple-year run at ASU, and we'll see how the next few days unfold. We genuinely don't know at this particular point, and so that would be something that obviously, if he were limited or out in any way, that would be harsh for the Sun Devil offense. But we have seen scenarios in the past, and though it was last year, where they've been able to work around that, and we'll see. We will see, like the rest of us, how this matter unfolds.
All right, so last news item to pass along. The Iowa State game, of course, a rematch of the Big 12 championship next weekend, November 1st in Ames. Well, we don't know when it's going to kick off because the dreaded 6-day selection has been slapped on that. I believe 6 of the 7 Big 12 games that week got the 6-day selection. So thanks, guys.
Yeah, like I think I saw that publication too, where it's like there's one game that has a time and the rest are like, I don't know when the hell we're playing football on that day. Just keeping fingers crossed for not as early as possible, because I'm not a huge fan of like those an early kickoff, at least the Arizona time kind of thing, that takes the team out of the comfort zone. But something like a early afternoon kickoff would be outstanding in my personal opinion. There, if you ask me, that would be very nice. You know what else is nice? Supporting those who support that which you support, of course, meaning Sun Devil Athletics. How can you do that? I'm going to tell you right now. Get connected with Nice Pest Company. If you want to protect your home, which you should, and your family, yourself, your loved ones, you got to make sure that you're protected from bugs, critters, any sort of creatures that might maybe do some damage and make life a little difficult for you at home. And you don't want to do that dirty work yourself. You want to get that connected to Nice Pest Company, of course. Not just highly talented in pest eradication, but it's a business owned and operated by ASU alumni and die-hard Sun Devil fans. Nice Pest Company serves residences and businesses all over the valley. Check this out. As we always tell you, you can get your very first service for just $42. And best of all, 100% of those proceeds will be donated by Nice Pest Company to ASU's Sun Angel NIL Collective. Again, like I said at the top, you got to support those who support what you love. Give your business to fellow Sun Devils with an incredible reputation and who, just like you, want to do their part to help Sun Devil Athletics to thrive. Nice Pest Company has well over 100,000 bugs that they have sent to their final resting place, and with well over 200 5-star Google reviews, you can rest easy knowing that you and your family and your home are in great hands. So no matter whether you've got scorpions or bed bugs or roaches or whatever sort of varmints and critters you got going on, or if you just want to make sure you don't get a house visit from those sort of guests, let Nice Pest Company do the dirty work so you can have the peace of mind that you deserve. It's always a nice day to support the Sun Devils, and with Nice Pest Company, it's always a nice day to be bug-free. Check them out online at nicepest.com for a free quote. Be sure to give them a follow on Twitter and Instagram at Nice Pest Company.
All right, let's talk to some of the Sun Devils that played really important roles in engineering that upset of number 7 Texas Tech. We'll start with a couple guys on the offensive side of the ball, starting with wide receiver Jaren Hamilton, and there will be a mid-interview crash by defensive tackle Jacob Rich Kangaika with a unique question of his own. So there's a photo from Saturday's game after one of your big catches, huge smile on your face. Just to have that breakout game over 100 yards, how good did that feel? Just knowing, kind of the things you've gone through and worked towards over the last first few weeks.
It felt great, especially like having my family out there. That was really what I was most proud about. Like even after the first catch, I got excited, and I was back on the sideline. I was waving at my dad and stuff, but honestly, that was really like the highlight of it all. Like not really me playing, but just my family being out there just to witness that. They've been with me through it all. They've been with me from the start, and they've always supported me and just, helped me along the way, whether I was sky high or rock bottom. They've always been there and just supported me.
Was it weird making a catch that wasn't for over 40 yards?
Not necessarily. It's just another routine play. Like, of course, I like the deep balls, but you got to make everything underneath too. Yeah.
So, when you guys were obviously facing one of the best defenses in the entire country, put up 26 points on them, when you look back on the film, what were some of the keys to the overall offensive success against a really good Texas Tech D? I
feel like us just sticking to our keys, just playing our game. We didn't really get out of our rhythm, and I feel like that's a good thing. When you play those type of games, it's easy for teams to, switch up and try to do this and run schemes that they haven't run just to win. But I feel like with us, we just played our game, and we practiced, we executed, and ultimately when we went out there, we just did our thing.
I think Saturday is going to be kind of a big moment for you, just in terms of, obviously after the first couple of weeks looking for that consistency, but having that breakthrough, that, brighter days are ahead.
Oh yeah, for sure. Every week we building, every week we grinding, and it's just on the up and up. Like, I don't ever want to, take a step back one week and, do this the next week. Like, no, I'm always grinding, trying to stay consistent and trying to go up.
Was it like playing, with Sam, showing that grit? Obviously he's not 100% out there, but, being able to do the things that he was able to do and get his playmakers the ball.
Oh, Sam, he a dog. He a soldier. I tell him every day, like, the stuff that he does is just amazing. For him to just come back and just, suck it up and just be there, be a captain, be a veteran on the team, it's all what we need, and I know he can do it.
You ready?
Question? Yeah. So, you always come around, with the double earrings on both sides, obviously, chains and everything. So, so what's your style? What would you say your style is, of wearing, dress and stuff like that?
My style is very eclectic. Like, ever since I was young, I always mixed and matched patterns. I always didn't want to do what everybody else is doing. So, when I see something, I just got to make it me. Like, I'm not just going to wear something basic. Like, I always got to put my own touch on something. So, I wouldn't box my style into just one thing. It's just if I like it, I'm going to turn it into whatever I want, and I'm going to rock it.
Okay, so would you say you're rich? You're one of the richest?
Here we go, man. You're rich. You're rich. That's been funny, bro.
So, of course, you guys got another tough opponent, Houston, coming to town. Really good defensive team. What's some of the early scouting report on them? Some of the things they like to do from on the defensive side?
What I've seen, some of the stuff was similar to Tech. They like to go quarters a lot. Even some of their corners, like I seen some of their techniques. Some of them like to play press a little bit more. Some of them like to be a little bit off and kind of play catch technique. But I feel like it's something that we can handle. It's nothing that should necessarily be a challenge to us if we just go out there and execute.
Next up, you'll hear from ASU center Makua Pule, who was thrust into a difficult spot, starting on a relatively short notice, but held his own and helped the Sun Devils get that win. So when you got the news that you're going to make that start against one of the best defenses in the country, what were some of the thoughts and what was your reaction?
Very nervous, obviously. A little self-doubt at first, but talking with my teammates and obviously putting my faith in the Lord, overcome that, and preparation as well helped me to overcome that. And then after playing the first drive, really kind of dipping my toe in it. I kind of felt comfortable, kind of treated like practice a little bit. And obviously it's like, obviously against a good opponent, but kind of just that mind tricks.
How did your teammates and some of those veterans in that offensive line room kind of help you get ready for facing the Red Raiders?
Very supportive. Trusted me. I have to say Skrill, Kyle, Jamedo, and Max. They all talk to me. Say, whatever you call, we trust. As long as we're on the same page, right or wrong, we're all right. We're all wrong together. And that support kind of just, elevate me, help me be confident in my cause.
Kenny mentioned that Sam has long had a lot of trust in you and in your ability. How did you feel like that trust and that faith manifested in that win on Saturday?
Manifested into a confidence. They were confident in me, and overall it made me confident in myself. And I think that really helped, especially going against a caliber of a D-line like that. And you know what I mean, grateful for the opportunities presented and for the confidence they have and the trust they have in me.
Late in that game, Texas Tech takes that lead. You guys head out there, 2 minutes left on the clock. What's the mood in the huddle? You know, to take us inside. And, you know, what was kind of the overall mindset of that offense?
For us, we're calm, collected. Coach, you always 2-minute drills. You know what I mean? That's what we do. I was very confident. You know what I mean? Whatever calls they played, whatever Sam did, confident. For me, my emphasis was making sure, you know what I mean, make sure we're on top of points, blocking the right guys and giving full effort. You know what I mean, chasing the ball. You never know when those can pop, and that's it.
Taking down a top 10 team is nice. Doing it in front of the home fans and in your hometown, got to be a little extra special for you.
It was nice. It was real nice. You know what I mean? Especially for the first start, nervous but grateful.
And then, you know, looking ahead at this Houston defense, pretty formidable unit in its own right. You know, what are some of the things that maybe jump out to you on film about what the Cougs bring?
Man, great effort, great physicality from these guys. You know what I mean? They very physical. They emphasize the little things. Man, they're quick. You know what I mean? We just got to match that. And obviously play smart with high effort like we played last week.
Now, ASU might just be back in gear for a possible repeat of a Big 12 title. And before we put it in reverse and look back on ASU's victory over Texas Tech, got to give a big shout out to Jones Auto Group. Folks, if you are jonesing for a new vehicle like you're jonesing for ASU to get back on the field this Saturday against Houston, you got to make Jones Auto Group your one and only call. Jones has been servicing the state of Arizona and the Sun Devil community for more than 50 years with multiple locations across the state. It is a fact. Jones Auto Group was the original provider of vehicles to Sun Devil student athletes for NIL purposes. They have had skin in the game since day one, and it's your support that enables them to do that year after year. In addition to their unwavering support of Sun Devil athletics, Jones Auto Group offers unique tax advantages due to their dealership locations. That can potentially save you some big-time money. It doesn't get any better than that. I know it can be an anxious, nervous experience sometimes when you're shopping for a new vehicle. But with Jones Auto Group, you get to work with a fellow Sun Devil who has your best interest in mind. That's about as good as it gets. So here's what you do to make that happen. You contact Parker Jones, not only the owner and GM, but a third-generation Arizona State alum and just like you, a diehard Sun Devil fan. Take down his cell number. Shoot him a text. Give him a call. He wants to hear from you and help you out. 602-881-8998. Again, 602-881-8998. You can browse their inventory of new and pre-owned vehicles at jonesautocenters.com. Jones Auto Group, Arizona's best since 1970.
So before ASU got the 26-22 thrilling comeback win over Texas Tech, really that started on last Tuesday during practice. Kenny decided that he was kind of not happy with the effort and how things had gone so far. And usually in the middle of a season, the practice schedule is pretty ingrained and pretty standard. And you're not getting a whole lot of full contact, live tackling, but that's exactly what the Sun Devils did. They really upped the physicality in practice throughout the course of last week. The intensity was noticeably much higher than before. And of course, you know, coming off that 42-10 loss, they needed something. And boy, did that pay dividends. And after that win, Kenny emphatically said, as long as he's coach here, that's the way they're going to do it from now on.
Man, that was, in previewing the game last week, we said it might have been on the air, might have just been in commentary. And it's definitely in, just conversations I had of, man, after that tail whipping against Utah, it would be the most ASU thing ever for them to come back and beat a team inside the top 10. And that's exactly what happened. We've seen that sort of turnaround before. I think back to, what was it? The 2019 season when ASU lost a really aggravating game at Oregon State and came back and beat a highly ranked Oregon team in Tempe. But this turnaround to me is as significant as I can remember. Another example was when ASU got the doors blown off the team against UCLA in 2014. And the next week was a Hail Mary. This one, between just how terrible ASU looked the week before, the injury issues mounting, and playing a team that just looked like it was destroying everything in its path, and how this game really could have kind of tapped ASU out for the season, in my opinion. But what happened was something that certainly neither of us predicted, and not a lot of folks, across the land predicted. ASU just came up, ready to go. Now, of course, there was a injury issue that greatly affected Texas Tech with Baron Morton, their traditional starting quarterback, being out for the game. But Will Hammond is someone that the fan, by the voices of the fan base, especially in that Utah game, they wanted to see him in action over Morton. So, would that have been different? I'm not sure if the outcome would have been different if Morton would have been in the game. But again, a lot to break down, a lot to talk about. But ASU just came out ready to go. I mean, there's just a different thing about this program when they're playing at home versus playing at road. They've had some good road games, but they just take on just this unbeatable mentality when they're in Mountain America Stadium.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's the last time we'll see these two teams play this season. Let's start off talking some defense because they were really, I think, the catalyst to everything that happened. Tech came in, as we talked about last week, averaging nearly 560 yards and 48 points a game. ASU held them to 276 yards and 22 points. And for 3.5 quarters, the defense was lights out, ferocious, flew to the ball, limited the big plays. The secondary, maybe the best overall secondary game we've seen played in the Kenny Dillingham era. First 5 possessions of the game for Tech, 4 punts and a turnover on downs. Now, of course, they were able to score some touchdowns late in the game. Obviously, not helped by the special teams, by the Sun Devils, which we will get to and rip here in short order. But really, this defense, we talked about last week, just like we've had like 4 data points that ASU's defense was good and one that was really bad in the Utah. So to that point, it seemed like the Utah performance was the outlier. And man, I think the ASU's defense read the tweets about them last. They played with a chip on their shoulder, and man, that was impressive.
It's interesting, again, the week over week massive difference. But Utah is an interesting opponent because, correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't think that I am. In 2023, wasn't it before that shellacking at the hands of Utah that Brian Ward was extended? I think it might have been after that USC game that was a lot closer than it should have been. And we're talking about like the season's rough, but the program's in rough shape, but the defense real good. And we want to make sure he's locked up. They're giving extensions, and then ASU, gives up 55 points in the next game.
Yeah, because like you saw the forest for the trees, but then like right after that was like one real ugly tree.
Yeah, and so so it's like, okay, what are we dealing with here to where like that Utah thing kind of pops its head again? And the reason I bring that up in that little history lesson is thinking about how we were raving about the defense in the second half of the TCU victory before the bye week. So just some interesting commonalities there. But and the defense came ready to play, man for man, just everybody from the front end to the back end. And, again, there's still some limitations there, in the secondary, especially trying to get Xavier Alford out there and just some others that have been banged up, things like that, at the depth of the defensive line. But, my goodness, did the guys step up, and they just made it a full game thing. Now, there were some lapses, as you talked about. We'll talk about the special teams that did not put them in good positions with short fields. But the defense just was not intimidated. They didn't seem to care at all that this was, arguably the top offense in the country by a lot of metrics, and in the very elite in the nation entering the game in a lot of categories. They just asserted their will, and that's something that this team can do. And so, okay, you've done it now. Don't let this be the outlier. This is where you get expectations that if you can do it against that team, you should be able to do it against just about anybody.
All right, so some superlatives and guys to shout out. Keyshawn Elliott, 11 tackles. He was just phenomenal, going everywhere. Jordan Crook, of course, his partner in crime at the linebacker level. I really was impressed. Again, mentioned it a moment ago, the secondary was. Keith Abney continues his all-conference caliber season. You mentioned Xavier Alford still missed another game, but Boogie Wilson is not skipped a beat back there, filling in for him. 3 pass breakups, just sideline to side, just everywhere. Flying all across the ball. Another safety, Montana Warren, smashed a would-be Texas Tech receiver, popping the ball up a little bit. Martell Hughes made that pick. Anthony Cooper, making a nice leaping sack in a key moment. Prince Dorba had another sack as well. Just really impressive at all 3 levels. You're seeing contributions for guys you expect, like the Keyshawn Elliott's and Keith Abney's of the world. It's guys who are thrust into larger roles like Martell Hughes and Boogie Wilson. So everybody is just seeming to be firing on all cylinders and taking that Utah loss and using that as fuel.
Yeah, Boogie Wilson, huge game. I mean, Martell Hughes, man, like it seems like every play he's made at ASU has been such a huge play. I mean, that interception he had, the game sealer right against TCU, that blocked punt last year was a catalyst in that game and helped really propel things for that season. So again, to someone that's been more of a depth guy, special teams guy, when he gets his chance, when his number is called, he makes the absolute most of it. So man, just a resounding victory spearheaded by the defense. And like I said, I mean, if you get up that way for that game on defense and you dominate the way that you did, just find that recipe and have that meal every single weekend from this point out. Because if the defense can play like that, ASU may not lose another game for the regular season. And that's a very different tune from what I said, and certainly from what I felt a week ago. Last week about this time, I'm thinking this is a team that, if they can get 8 wins altogether, that would be an achievement based on just how I felt after that Utah game and what I thought was coming on its way for Texas Tech. So I was wrong. So now things might get a little interesting, but it's Bruce Snyder one at a time mentality.
Martell and Montana seemed to be like a nice little duo because Martell had the punt block last year. Montana had the touchdown off the subsequent scoop. And then Montana had the hit, and then Martell had the scoop, the diving interception. So good young cornerstones for the Sun Devil defense that has been obviously talked about so veteran heavy, but the kids are not bad. There's a lot of reasons to be optimistic for the future. Let's switch over to the offense, Joe. 394 yards on the day. Pretty good. 26 points. Again, kind of one of those things where ASU's getting the yards, but those red zone issues. We'll talk about let's be positive. Let's put the red zone issues off to the side for a moment. Let's talk about Sam Leavitt. Excellent. A career high 319 yards passing, just 1 touchdown, but now 11-0 against Big 12 competition as the Sun Devil starter. And behind that offensive line, facing that Texas Tech defense, what he was able to do, while obviously still not 100%,
right.
Extremely impressive. And Kenny Dillingham talked about this after the game. After suffering the injury against Baylor, he's played a couple games, not being his full agile self. And Kenny says that the strides made of just in his game as a passer are starting to really become more pertinent. And you see the ball getting to different guys a little bit more than just all Jordan Tyson everything all the time. And that could that injury could be a bit of a blessing in disguise. Now, obviously, you want him to be agile, and he had some good runs, but still, it's just like this could be like after all the flack he caught so much, going against one of the best defenses in the country and doing what he was able to do, and especially that last drive in the clutch. Extremely impressive.
Yeah, I mean, heading into the game, if you would have told me, hey, Sam Leavitt's going to have 3 rushing yards and he's going to attempt 47 passes, I'm going to say it's probably not going to be a great day for ASU if he's leaning far away from what his kind of typical numbers would look like, or typical division of production there. But man, it was such a playmaking game. Something about him. I mean, he's just a gamer. He's a guy that it seems like when the lights are the brightest and when the most is on the line, that it brings out the best in him, gets his attention the most. And, this is not a season where he's got Cam Scadaboo to do all the work. He's got to be the guy to really take that on his shoulders and, help his teammates out. And my goodness, is that what he did? Such a crucial time to have such an incredible game, especially throwing the ball, no interceptions, again, even though the rushing yards were mild, that wasn't a major hindrance. Texas Tech entering the game had the best rush defense in the country. And so, ASU got a little bit above what they typically allowed, as far as what Texas Tech, I think they typically allowed somewhere in the 60s as far as net rushing yards per game. So again, this is one where you truly hope on a lot of fronts that this can be a catapult to maybe another special season. And obviously Sam Leavitt is at the forefront of that.
Yeah, it was really great to see him, have that performance. You mentioned the run game. The sack adjusted figures, 103 yards and 3.2. Now, of course, with the sacks that drops it, down, I believe into the 70s or something like ASU overall, and like 2 yards a carry. So that not a whole lot there, but they did get the last rushing yard, the most important rushing yard, thanks to Raleek Brown scoring the game winner there. But we talked about Jordan Tyson, another 10 catches, his heroic effort, that 4th and 2 on the final 2-minute drive. But got a shout out Jaren Hamilton, 101 yards, catches of 45 and 49 yards. And his previous catch coming in was 44. So, you heard him a few minutes ago. Just, I asked him, were you disappointed when you made a catch that wasn't for 40 some odd yards? Yeah. But like, he is starting to put in this is the Jaren Hamilton we saw in the last part of spring practices and throughout fall camp. The guy who was burning what has turned out to be a pretty good ASU defense on a consistent basis. And you see that the power of confidence, because he was having some issues, with the playbook, and he had a drop, of course, a few games ago. Now that confidence is seeming in place. He's become a huge playmaker. Now there's a couple wide receivers you got to worry about. Oh, now there's 2 tight ends that are getting the ball. Both Cameron Harpole had a career high with 4 catches. Shimon Mateer, 4 catches, 66 yards as well. More guys are getting the ball, and this is, I think, going to be just an ASU offense that is maybe starting to round into a form that is ready and kind of to that level of matching that defense. And and you put those two together, that's a championship caliber football team.
Yeah, you look at the pass numbers for ASU and just the distribution. You had 28 catches spread over 7 pass catchers, and you had 5 of them with at least 3 receptions on the game, and even a lot of guys with 4 or more. Jordan Tyson with 10. So you're getting several receivers involved. Yeah, Cameron Harpole, that was interesting. He was getting targeted quite a bit, and he made some plays for sure. Like you said, Hamilton getting over 100 yards, huge for the confidence. You don't want to get too far ahead of yourself, but there's just a feel that, man, if they can just stay locked in, that this could be a turning point for the season. We have been asking week after week after week, and we really thought after that Baylor game that ASU had maybe found its second receiver in Derek Eusebio, and he's still getting involved in the action. He had 2 catches, but Hamilton has got something to him athletically that is really, really impressive. So this could possibly be, where ASU is really starting to move things around. You still got some guys that you would like to get involved in the offense, but if you can get these kind of numbers, and I mean, if you have 2 receivers that are coming anywhere close to 100 yards, and if one of them is Jordan Tyson, that's going to get a lot of attention for the other receiver and the other pass catchers coming out of the Sun Devil offense. So yeah, this box score in the pass game is really what we've been looking for pretty much all year long.
ASU had 3 fumbles, and they recovered them all. Jeff Sims got lost the handle near the goal line, but
I couldn't even understand that play and why he was called into that. I mean, we're not talking even like a Michael, someone that's a 240-pound quarterback who can just lunge forward for a yard or 2. Yeah, that I didn't get that.
Yeah, so I think that that was just you're going to pull an upset. You sometimes have the ball bounce your way, and ASU on all 3 occasions did. But all right, Joe, let's dive into what wasn't so good. Right now, I don't know if you know the number, but do you happen to know what % of ASU's red zone drives have ended in the end zone this year?
What % of the
total red zone drives have ended in touchdowns?
What's the number of how many there are? Not the %, but what's the total number of attempts?
That would be good if I had thought to write that down.
I'll say
a lot, because they're moving the ball very well.
Yeah, I mean, they get there. Like, we're talking about this a lot. I'll say a third, 33%.
Oh, okay. It's much better. It's 45.16%.
It feels like never. It really felt like that. I thought you were going to say it's been like 18% or something, because it certainly feels like fewer than 1 out of every 3, or less frequently than that.
But 45% is still very bad. There are 136 teams as this in FBS this year, with Delaware and Missouri State moving up. So 136. That 45.16% ranks ASU 126th in touchdown percentage. Now, this is a team that has Sam Levitt in his legs, has Jordan Tyson, has some good tight ends, has some good running backs, has an accomplished offensive coordinator, and yet here we are.
And I think that number would get quite putrid if it were narrowed down to like inside the 10. That's a red zone number, right?
Red zone.
Yeah. If you get inside like the 10, I think that's
I can pull the numbers
exponentially disgusting. And so, and I mean, the easy comment is, you don't really have a tough bruising running back like you did last year. Now, obviously, that guy's as tough running and as bruising as just about anybody on the planet at what he does. And I get that, yeah, ASU's healthy runners don't necessarily, follow that style. But it's it's more than that. I mean, you're getting plays that are blown up in the backfield. You know, you're having decisions that are quite questionable. You have, you know, you'll get inside the 10 and it'll be third down and you're completing passes where the player catches it at like the 3 or 4 yard line. You know, you're not even really targeting the end zone. You're expecting the player to do everything after the catch in such a condensed space where you got, you know, 11 defenders in a really small space that it's pretty easy to make a tackle. So not going to try to pose myself as some sort of football guru, especially not on offensive play calling, but it's so difficult to grasp and understand why this issue is the issue, because you've got talented offensive players. Like when ASU looks real good offensively in a lot of cases, they look better from, you know, like their own 20 than they do on the opposing 20, which should not be the case in a football game.
14 of 31, 14 touchdowns, 31 attempts. Not great, but on those futile attempts to punch the ball in, thankfully ASU has Jesus Gomez. So let's end on special teams. I think there are 3 promising things on special teams. Jesus Gomez continues to be a Lou Groza caliber kicker.
Mm-hmm.
Roman Petrie had a partial blocked punt, and I think I've been high on Petrie's potential. Also very high on Zechariah Sample, first touch, and dude makes things happen. 31-yard punt return. Other than that, Joe, the special teams, as Kenny Dillingham said, was awful, was embarrassing and inexcusable.
I can't think of a single game. Now, thankfully, this did not have the just crushing heartbreak of the game I'm about to mention, but the only other game that I can think of that had this many significant special teams mistakes was the LSU game in 2005, where a blocked field goal and a blocked punt were returned for touchdowns, and, you know, were the catalyst in that game. In addition to that, just miserable, you know, 4th down pass from Jamarcus Russell early to set. And it's just allowing long returns in circumstances that should have no business doing that. It's this strategy on kickoffs where you have a talented kicker. You're not playing, and you're not playing in, you know, any sort of weather conditions. It was a beautiful day there Saturday afternoon, and for whatever reason, there's this refusal to attempt to kick the ball near or out of the end zone. And even those sort of kicks, which are, I think, done by design to just have the guy catch it and he's pretty much dropped there. And those are getting long returns. And, you know, you're doing it at the end of the game when it's precious real estate to give them as long of a field as possible to operate through. I do not understand the strategy. Whatever the strategy is, the execution cannot be good, because there's no way that that's the intention to have these outcomes. So, you know, the punting has been miserable. I understand, you know, Kenyon Floyd started off very well, and I know that he's been, you know, really damaged by this leg injury, and they put him back into action because he just cannot go with McKenzie out there. So, yeah, again, Gomez has been great, and there have been some decent returns by ASU, especially if, you know, you take some of the penalties away. They'd have their special teams returns would be pretty nice looking if you didn't have the penalties they've had throughout the course of the year. But the coverage has just been a nightmare, and the punting is. The ASU right now ranks dead last in the nation in net punting. I mean, that says it all right there. And so this issue combined with the red zone issue, they feel so avoidable, but they're also so significant that though there's a lot of excitement back again, and rightfully so, these are issues that could rear their heads at the most inopportune times, cause ASU to lose an otherwise winnable game. And at this point, with what ASU has on the line, that could put them out of contention for the Big 12 title. These are major, major issues, not just things, they're not great now, we'll deal with it in the offseason. You have to figure that out, and you got to do it now.
The red zone offense has been awful. Special teams has gotten to the point Kenny Dillingham said he's taking a more hands-on, proactive approach, and we saw that earlier today at practice. And yet, ASU is just took down the number 7 team in the country, is ranked, has a manageable schedule, and controls their own. I don't know if they control it yet, but based on some other way the other teams have, they take care of business. They're in really good shape to be back in Arlington.
There you go. Right. I think like if they, I'm a believer that even if they don't technically control their own destiny. I think that things will work out to where they kind of do, basically. You have a couple undefeated teams at the top, and we'll get into this. We're getting off on a tangent now, but I feel like those teams are going to drop at least one, maybe 2 games. They just
couple of them play each other.
Exactly. And they're going to, you're going to have BYU, Texas Tech play each other. Someone's going to essentially there's going to be process of elimination there. But yeah, these issues are pretty big deals. Last year we were talking about having issues getting to the quarterback. There were some concerns there, but man, these 2 significant things that just can really halt momentum. I mean, you can get a touchdown and take a lead and be so excited and momentum's on your side. And then what do? You kick it off and maybe allow a touchdown return or like a 50-60 yard return that puts them right into the red zone. Or, you have a long drive down the field. And we've seen this. I mean, heck, we saw it against Mississippi State in the possession that created the lead, but realistically created the loss too. You deliberately make your way downfield. You eat up a bunch of time. You're getting first downs. You're getting yardage. You're getting it done. And then you get 6 feet from the goal line and you can't anymore. And that ineptitude right there is what lost the game. So these are things that, again, you want to view the forest of the game and the win of Texas Tech, and you want to enjoy it on that high level and recognize it for what it is and what it can represent through the remainder of the season. But you also have to see the trees of, man, they're lucky to have survived. And that's the only way to describe it, because it took all the way up to the end. And that it wasn't even really a true Hail Mary. It wasn't from that sort of distance. You're not chucking it up in the air and letting it hang for a while. I mean, you watch that and, man, the guy got a hand on it. Like, it was not that far from being a completed pass and just an absolute devastating heartbreaker for ASU fans. So thankfully that didn't happen. But I think, again, to maximize what you can get out of the season, you just don't want to see these issues be what hold ASU back. If you go and you go toe to toe and it's just a better team on that day, then so be it. You can make your peace with that. But if every other capacity of the team, if the defense is playing lights out, if your quarterback's having a career day, you just can't have these other facets of the game be what compromise it. Again, thankfully that didn't happen against Texas Tech. And I get the logic that, hey, if you got away with that against Texas Tech, you can get away with that against just about anybody. It's not necessarily the case in this dog-eat-dog Big 12. So I don't know the solution, and I don't know how you have some, sweeping remedy that you implement, 8 games into the season. But I certainly hope that there is something that can be done at least to mitigate it. I'm not expecting ASU to have the most elite special teams in every facet across the board, but if you can just have more confidence in your kickoff and your punt teams, that would be a incredible development. Now it's almost time for us to go behind enemy lines and learn about the Houston Cougars. But before we do that, this one right here is for the homies. If you want a restaurant as passionate about supporting Sun Devil athletics as you are, you got to make Burrito Express your local burrito joint. Burrito Express began with a vision, a family-run Mexican restaurant serving authentic food with fast, friendly service and deep community roots, making Burrito Express a true multi-generational, family-led legacy. From the beginning, it's always been about flavor, family, and the people they serve at Burrito Express. Burrito Express is more than just a place to eat. They're part of the neighborhood, and as you know by now, a strong figure in the Sun Devil community. From day one, they focus on bold flavors, fast service, and real connections with the communities they serve. It's that mix of quality, culture, and care that makes Burrito Express different. Burrito Express delivers bold flavor, fast service, and hometown pride in every bite. You can order online for pickup or delivery and fuel up with real deal burritos made fresh daily across the valley. You can visit any of their 9 locations, 2 of which are fast and fresh restaurants located in Circle K stores. You can find Burrito Express in Tempe, Scottsdale, Chandler, Gilbert, and Queen Creek. Most locations are open 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday and 8 to 3 on Saturday and Sundays, while some locations are open 6 to 3 during the week and 7 to 3 on weekends. Check them out online at theburritoexpress.com and follow them on social media at Burrito EXP on Twitter and Instagram, Burrito Express AZ on TikTok, and on Facebook at facebook.com/your local burrito joint.
All right, now we are going to go behind Houston lines with Cougars insider Ryan Monceaux of GoCougs.com to get a little insight into ASU's upcoming opponent and new Big 12 rival. Ryan, thanks for coming on. How are you tonight?
I am great. And I just want to say to all Arizona State fans, from the bottom of every heart at U of H, thank you for what you did to Tech, for shutting those people up. That's all. And we were happy to, help with Arizona this weekend too.
I was just about to say, I mean, you guys certainly made a lot of ASU folks happy as well. But yeah, those Tech fans, they were chirping a lot last week, but all of a sudden I don't see a whole lot of cactus emojis in my Twitter mentions.
Ooh, that's a shame.
All right, so let's start off with kind of the macro picture. Now about halfway into year 3 of Houston after making the jump into the new conference, how do you feel kind of the football program has adjusted to life in the Big 12?
Well, you had a mulligan year with Dana Holgorsen. Just did not compete in the league. So Willie Fritz came in last year, and it was the worst offense I've seen in about 30 years of doing this. Just wasn't very good. Got shut out twice. Scored 3 points at Arizona. So you had to rehaul the entire roster. Over the last 2 years, about 105 guys have come in, high school or portal. And like your offense right now, you started, I believe, 9 transfers in the first game. So they've completely remade the team that they're putting out there. And it looks a lot better now. I don't think it's where they want it to be. I think you still aren't the talent level that can consistently compete in this conference, but it's certainly trending in the right direction.
So Willie Fritz has been one of my favorite coaches to watch a number of years, going back to his days at Tulane. Now, obviously, getting the Cougs in a really positive direction right now. From your vantage point over the last couple of years, what has made him such a successful coach?
He knows who he is. He doesn't deviate from that. And I was noticing this at practice yesterday, is that he is a true CEO. He lets the assistant coaches coach. He lets the coordinators coach. And he doesn't micromanage. And I think the guys believe in him, and they have seen that the things that he instilled, that you're going to win right now on the margins. You just don't have the talent to compete at that highest level. So you've got to win with penalties and turnovers and special teams. And they feel like if they can dominate those spots, they can win games. And those guys are starting to believe it. They're starting to see it. And he is just a completely likable person. The players have told me that it's kind of night and day from the last regime. And I think that helps a lot too.
Through 7 games, Houston already bowl eligible. First time, I believe, since about 2022. Already improved the year-over-year win total by a couple games. What have been some of the primary keys to this turnaround from 2024 now into 2025?
Well, last year you scored 14 points a game. So to start off, that's the biggest improvement. They're not turning the ball over hardly at all, and they're converting third downs. Last year, most of the drives they had that were 9, 10, or more plays didn't score points. And this year, all the drives that have been 10 plays plus have scored points. So you're not demoralizing your team by just not getting points on successful drives. More than anything, I think they know who they are, and they have a quarterback that they feel can get tough yards for them when they need it.
Speaking of that quarterback, Connor Wigman coming in as to the college ranks, highly rated recruit. Makes the move over to Houston, and now really having an outstanding year so far. What's your evaluation of what he's been able to bring to this Houston offense, and what he brings to the field for the Cougs?
He has gotten better every single game. From where he was in spring and fall camp to the evolution through this season, you can see him getting better. He's got 2 guys that he can depend on, tight end Tanner Kojal and Amari Thomas, a transfer from UAB. And he seems like he understands where he fits and what they want him to do, what they expect of him. And I really just feel like he's comfortable in his own skin. Certainly for the first time he's been here, but maybe his first time in college.
Of course, he's a dangerous runner, a nice dual threat
Yep.
quarterback, but also Dean Connors has been, really productive as the lead back. What has allowed Connors to really kind of come in and help jumpstart this Cougar ground game?
So he's kind of a Swiss Army knife. He can really do everything. But from where he was at the start of the year to where he is now is night and day. The last two games, Oklahoma State and Arizona, I feel like he has run hard, tough. Against Arizona, he had a lot of runs that should have been 2 or 3 yard gains that just through sheer will, he turned into 7, 8, 9 yard gains. And this offense is not meant for second long and third long. It just doesn't work. And with him being able to get to second and 3, third and 2, has helped this entire offense just get smarter and become more efficient. And so I think the most important thing that he's done is transform. He was kind of a scat back, kind of a shifty guy, but he's running hard.
You mentioned him a moment ago. Tight end Tanner Kojal has been really productive. I believe the Big 12 leader in third down receptions. I believe listed 6'7", so quite a big target there for Connor. What makes him such a key contributor and a go-to guy for this Cougar offense?
He catches everything that's thrown at him. If it's in his catch radius, which is enormous because he's 6'8".
Oh, 6'8".
So anything that he can get his enormous arms and hands on, he's going to catch. And he's made really tough looking catches seem routine. And he's working. I think Willie mentioned it yesterday in his press conference that he had his best game blocking against Arizona. He was not a strong blocker to start the year, but he's turning into more of a total package. They lost the second string tight end to an injury before the Oklahoma State game. So he's had to kind of carry a little bit more load, but he's just an incredible route runner, and he's always going to catch the ball when it's thrown at him.
Seems so far that Houston's been a bit run heavy with on the run pass ratio. Obviously, when you have a dual threat quarterback like Wigman and Connors carrying the load, it's a good idea. But some receivers like Amari Thomas really putting up some really impressive numbers in the yards per catch and stretching the field a little bit. So overall, what kind of game plan do you expect to see from Houston on Saturday night against ASU?
I think the most important thing is to be able to do everything. If you can limit this U of H team to just running the ball. Arizona State was pretty good in the defensive backfield against Tech. If they can do that against U of H and shut down the weapons that U of H has, they're not going to be very good one-dimensional. Amari Thomas gets past the chains, and more than anybody, even more than Tanner Kojal, he and Connor Wigman have a trust factor in that if Connor's throwing it to a spot, Amari's always going to be there. And it's been impressive, just catching balls that just he really shouldn't be there for. And so I think that if they can continue to be a 50-50 kind of team, that's how they're going to succeed. Another guy went down this week, Stephon Johnson, senior wide receiver starter. He's probably done for the year. So they're adjusting a little, but I think that's the game plan.
Switching over to the defensive side, Cougs seem to be really stout on that side of the ball, especially. What should this ASU offense expect to see from the Cougars defense from a schematic perspective, and what has really allowed them to have the success they've had so far this year?
Austin Armstrong is a new defensive coordinator. He came over from Florida. He was fired at Florida. U of H lost their DC to Texas Tech. And what he's done is attacked more. He brings the blitz. He's got a star position, kind of like a nickel, but much more blitz heavy. And they brought that against Arizona. It was very successful. The linebackers are really good at keeping things in front of them. And so it's more of a kind of a contained defense. with the blitz thrown in the right spots. You're not going to be overpowered by the defensive line like Tech could do, but it's probably just a more well-rounded defense. And so far, they've been pretty good.
Who's a guy on each side of the ball, maybe a little bit under the radar that you could play like an X factor type of role and really kind of play a critical part in deciding Saturday's outcome?
So on the offensive side, how about we do defense? Last week, a guy by the name of Rook Brown had 9 tackles, had a sack and a half, and had 3.5 tackles for loss. He's a guy that transferred in from Wyoming and has found his way into the lineup and getting a lot more action. The game plan was suited for him against Arizona. On the offensive side of the ball, there's a young wide receiver named Kobe Young. He's a redshirt freshman, and he has been putting plays together. He has not put an entire game together. For U of H to be successful, they're going to need more targets than Tanner Kojal and Amari Thomas. Kobe Young is the guy that could be that. He runs a great deep route. He's got to be able to catch those balls. And if he can do that, that could be the X factor.
So after this week's game, it looks like the remaining slate for Houston's pretty intriguing and pretty manageable and sets up well to make a run at the end of the year. So that said, how important is it for Houston? It's this Saturday in Tempe and this game against the Sun Devils, as it kind of figures to be an important contest for both teams' goals to make a run to Arlington.
See, this is where I may be in the minority, but I don't think this game is super important for U of H to achieve what they want to achieve. I think you can take that second conference loss and be okay. If the last 4 games are West Virginia at UCF, TCU at home, and then at Baylor, those are manageable. They're not that top echelon of schools. They're teams you think you can beat. And so if you play well and maybe don't win in Tempe, you could still win those 4 games and be in Arlington. I think the number 2 team in the conference title game is probably going to have 2 losses. Tech and BYU play each other in a couple weeks. Cincinnati's got a tough road. It could work out that a 2-loss team gets there. And yeah, it would be great to win in Tempe, but I don't think it's necessary for U of H. I think it's necessary for Arizona State. You got to win the home games now. And so, I don't think it's necessary for U of H to win.
Well, that's all I got for you, Ryan. Thank you so much for taking the time and to sharing your expertise and insight. Encourage our folks to head over to gocougs.com to learn all about ASU's upcoming opponent. Ryan, thanks again.
Great. Thank you so much.
Now, while many ASU stores have come and gone, Cactus Sports is a community staple. Founded, owned, and operated by ASU alumni since 1992, every purchase made through Cactus Sports results in royalties that help support Arizona State University. Many of their competitors have been bought out and operated by out-of-state corporations, while Cactus Sports stays locally owned and operated. They consider it a privilege to be able to work with their guests, alumni, fans, and students who help give input for some of the products that Cactus Sports buys. So when you purchase from Cactus Sports, not only are you assured of the highest quality officially licensed merchandise, but you also have the satisfaction of knowing that you've helped truly support a local Sun Devil-owned small business. And, oh, by the way, a huge shout-out, happy birthday to our guy, Troy Scoma. Had a birthday earlier this week. All the best to you. Let's get celebrating with another Sun Devil victory this weekend. And I'm sure Troy would love it to help celebrate his birthday if you visited Cactus Sports, and they're located at 514 South Mill Avenue in Tempe. Open from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and Sundays from 10 to 6. They often have different hours on game day, so stay tuned to their social media for that. You can also view their full inventory and shop online at cactussports.com with free domestic ground shipping for orders of $75 or more. Be sure to also follow Cactus Sports on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Cactus Sports AZ, and on Facebook at facebook.com/Cactus Sports AZ. Locally owned and ASU alumni operated since 1992. Shop at Cactus Sports and think local, buy local, be local. Well, ASU is about to get back at it. You got to put that resounding, incredible, exhilarating victory over Texas Tech. That's a memory that Sun Devil fans will hold for quite a while. But you know what? You got to turn the page. You got to move on to the next one. The Houston Cougars come into town to face ASU. They are quite an improved team from last year, so this is a formidable opponent. Of course, ASU did not face them last year, so this will be the first time that they'll meet as Big 12 opponents, but this will be the 10th all-time meeting as ASU holds a 5-4 edge in the series. Now, if anyone out there thinks that ASU's game in London next year against Kansas is the first time Sun Devil football will play abroad, well, that is not correct, because the last time that ASU and Houston played one another, that was on December the 2nd, 1990 in Tokyo. Yes, you heard that right, in Tokyo. And that game was called the Coca-Cola Classic. ASU lost that game 62-45 against Houston. And in that game, played in Tokyo, Houston quarterback David Klingler set an NCAA single-season record with 716 passing yards against ASU. That hung over the heads of the Sun Devil fans for a while, nearly 25 years, until October the 5th of 2014, in a real classic Pac-12 After Dark moment. Washington State's Connor Halliday threw for 734 yards against Cal. October the 5th, 2014. Brad, do you know what else happened on October the 5th, 2014? A couple hours before Connor Halliday set the record that he set.
That wasn't the Notre Dame game, was it?
It was not, but it was a perhaps even more memorable moment of that season.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the Joe Mary game.
It was the Joe Mary. That was like a late afternoon, early evening game. Because I remember watching those games, and this is like the perfect Pac-12 after. We got, because that game was one of those late afternoon kickoffs where by the end of the sun was down by the end of the game, and I think that Cal Washington State game was like the finale of the day, the late game there. So it was just an awesome day of football where ASU had the Joe Mary. And you know what? A record was broken. It's cool to see that. And when it eliminates a record that was set against ASU, that's an extra win.
It was also the last day I was clean shaven. There you go.
Well, there we have that as well. A big day for Jalen Strong, Mike Bergovici, for Connor Halliday, and for Brad's facial hair.
So going back to I remember it was the 1990 game in Houston and the 1,000 yards and all that stuff. So the game was named just after the Coca-Cola Classic.
That's what. Yeah, I think.
Were they trying to be overly clever?
I guess that's true, right? Yeah.
I thought it was. I always thought it was like the Coca-Cola Bowl or the International Bowl.
That's
something.
what I've found in the research. I believe that's what I found. And it's interesting because it wasn't like a bowl game, per se. I'm looking it up on the spot. So yes, it wasn't like a bowl game that they qualified for. Yeah. I think it was just like a exhibition game. Yeah, on the Wikipedia, the Coca-Cola Classic was a regular season NCAA college football game played in Tokyo, Japan from 1977 to 93. So they had it for nearly, 20 years there almost. So let's see game results.
There's some marketing executive or marketing meeting that they were just like wanted to hit lunch early. It's like the Coca-Cola Classic. All right, we're done.
The final one in 93 had Wisconsin, Michigan State. The year before that, Nebraska, K-State, Clemson, and Duke. Obviously, ASU lost to Houston, Syracuse, Louisville. Before that, prior to that, you got Oklahoma State, Texas Tech. That was the pre-Big 12 days in the late 80s. The U of A lost to Stanford in 86. There, the very first one in 77 was Grambling beating Temple. There you go.
We sent Temple over there.
And these, it looked like they pulled about 50,000 people, annually. And there was one time where they got in the 70s and 80,000. So yeah, that is a little bit of Sun Devil, just like one of those really weird oddities. And I know that my dad went to the game. That would have been it was when he was still with Channel 3. So he was just, I think I was in first, second grade at the time. I remember he brought me home like a baseball hat of like a Japanese baseball team, the Giants, and I this is cool. Okay. Like it didn't similar color scheme as the San Francisco Giants, but not the same logo. So yeah, those are the things I remember. Like there are just some weird oddities about how college sports and college football used to operate. Another one of them about how games used to be aired on tape delay here at this same station that from which we record right now. So.
And Doug Haller wrote a great piece about the 1990 game and about how the stats probably aren't accurate because there was some it's all kinds of weirdness. It's on The Athletic. He wrote a couple years ago But yeah, it's wild. It's befitting the oddity title that you're talking about, because it was obviously weird. I remember going to bed as a kid and like reading about it in the paper the next morning, because streaming wasn't a thing. But it was
So is
weird.
there some dispute about this? Is it like in, I'll always bring everything back to professional wrestling, how there are people that say this massive attendance for WrestleMania 3 and the Silver Dome in Detroit that they're saying was like the biggest crowd ever was like way smaller than what they announced. So are we thinking that there's some chicanery and some
There
hijinks
was.
going
I
on
think
with
there
the
was just like
statistics?
some stuff that like I read this story years ago, but I think it was just like basically I think they lost the ability to like accurately track. So a lot of guess and vibe based stat
Going off
keeping.
vibes. Okay, so David
So
Klingler,
700, that's a lot.
716 increments of vibes there. But we digress. Let's fast forwarding 35 years now, going back to the series. ASU has lost the last 2 in the series after winning 5 straight across the 1971 to 82 season. So these teams, played a fair amount like the 70s, 80s, very, very early 90s, but they're back here in 2025. So Houston, of course, enters this game with a 6-1 record, quite improved. Now then, the resume that's got them there, not necessarily a list of world beaters. They've defeated Stephen F. Austin, Stone Cold Stephen F. Austin, I guess, Rice, Colorado, and Oregon State. Those teams have lost quite a few games between them. Then they had a 24-point loss at home to Texas Tech. Most recently, wins against Oklahoma State and walk-off field goal win against the U of A last week. Cougars are a few spots outside the top 25 this week, essentially being like 29th in the AP poll.
I was really hoping that they would get in, because a ranked matchup would have been cool this week.
That would have been nice. And you know what? I think that's their ranking or lack thereof is kind of a statement on, the teams that they played. Now, again, what we talked about, the turnstiles of national rankings. If they beat ASU this week, there will be one of the 2 teams in the national rankings, and ain't going to be the Sun Devils. So a huge catalyst, of course, Brad. I know you're super high on Willie Fritz, head coach. Year 1 for him at Houston last year, they were 4-8, but they're 6-1 now. Already bowl eligible for the first time since 2022. Obviously, already have increased their win total year over year by 2, with a bunch of games still left to play. Did some amazing things at Tulane before coming to Houston. He had that credible top 10 season where they won the New Year's Bowl game against USC, I believe. So he's something special. And again, kind of like Kenny Dillingham, year 1 you take your lumps. Year 2, really getting things going into overdrive.
Yeah, obviously, huge fan of what he's been able to do, working his way up the small school ranks, getting a chance at Tulane and doing the things with the Green Wave. That's been really impressive. And he was having taken the kind of a longer path, a little bit of an older coach. So I was kind of surprised that he made that jump to the power level, which it seemed inevitable and a little bit overdue to to Houston. Thought maybe some bigger, more established schools might come a calling, but he's been doing great work. And yeah, this is a program that I think in the coming years, with their location and some of the resources there, you might have some of the issues where you have to fight. That some of those schools have an elite basketball program. You might have to, are you second fiddle? Well, it'll be interesting, to see. But what they've done so far this year, as you mentioned, not a murderer's row, but they're doing what when you face these okay to bad teams. Good teams beat them, and they beat them.
And one thing that kind of stands out to me is last year, Houston, I believe, had 3 total players earn first team, second team, or honorable mention, all Big 12. Obviously, that's a very low amount, and none of the 3, between transfers and graduation, none of them are back. So you're really starting from an early point. A lot of transfer portal activity. So for them to be 6-1, again, we've talked all offseason about the returning productivity and the names that came back for ASU. Houston's in the total opposite situation where they really had to revamp, really had to reload, again, with some success so far. So to talk about the personnel and how they've gotten here, a big name to keep in mind, Connor Wegman, quarterback. So he transferred in. He was a guy that was like a high 4-star, and even some services had him as a 5-star recruit. Began at Texas A&M, moved his way over to Houston. On the year, he averages a little under 200 passing yards per game, 197.1. He's got 11 passing touchdowns, 2 interceptions, has 243 net rushing yards, a team best 6 rushing touchdowns, almost hit triple digits against the U of A last week. So he's someone that, the numbers don't necessarily blow you out of the water, but he can operate this offense and get things done, playing within himself. That 11-2 touchdown interception ratio, pretty solid there. So again, not lighting the world on fire. Probably not going to get an invite to New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony, but he's keeping things above water and keeping this team winning.
Good fit in the offense. Now, this is an offense that likes to run the ball a lot. Some triple option elements that are going to be present in the attack as well, and a lot of quarterback run game. And I put Wegman in kind of that category of like a Diego Pavia, a Haynes King, a guy that's, they're going to be smart. They're not going to make a ton of flashy plays, but they're kind of like battering rams in the run game. They're going to every game they're going to be maybe like 170 to 210 yards passing, but like 80, 90 yards and a rush touchdown or two as well. And yeah, he's a good runner, 6 rushing touchdowns so far this year. You mentioned a veteran of the game, makes good decisions as evidenced by that 11-2 touchdown to pick ratio, and likes to attack downfield. There, we'll get to. There's some weapons that can stretch this defense a little bit downfield, even though they are more ground game based.
And on the ground, Dean Connors is the guy you're going to hear his name called a lot. He's trending toward a possible 1,000-yard season, 538 yards on 115 carries, 4 scores in 7 games. He had 16 receptions for 113 yards and a touchdown. He went over triple digits against U of A. They almost had 200-yard rushers in that game, did Houston. So he's someone that you've heard the Swiss Army knife, phrase used a lot with him, someone that can do a little bit of everything. He transferred in from Rice. He's had a couple 100-yard games this year, so he's someone that they rely on quite a bit.
Intercity transfer, I guess, with the Rice to Houston.
They're like 3.5 miles away. I was looking up the distance between them, and their campuses are like, a few miles away. That's wild.
Yeah, and so, Rice obviously trying to find their way with their triple option. But yeah, Connor's a good stout inside runner, averaging nearly 5 yards a carry. Also can't be overlooked as a threat in the pass game. 13 catches overall, and I believe a score as well. But yeah, just kind of a battering ram. You have that kind of 1-2 punch of Connors and Wegman. Not going to be a tremendous amount of flash, but also you're going to see a lot of those chains moving.
In the pass game, they're starting wide receivers Amari Thomas, Harvey Broussard, Kobe Young. Thomas, the head and shoulders leader there. He's got team highs of 410 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns, ranked second on the team with 27 catches. Houston did have some bad news recently. Stephon Johnson, the team's second leading pass catcher among wide receivers, who also currently ranks 7th in the nation in yards per catch at over 21 yards per reception. It sounds like he's going to be out for the year. He played in the first 6 games, missed last week. Sounds like they may not get him back at all, especially not for this week's game. So as we'll talk about, this is different from, it seems like we've made a point virtually every week about, man, this team has a lot of targets that they throw to, or X amount of guys with 20 or more receptions. Houston's on the other end of the equation where they've got a running back they use a lot, and they've got 1 wide receiver and 1 really good tight end that they use a lot. So to lose a guy like Stephon Johnson, who is pretty much that really good, really dangerous, dynamic second receiver, that's a significant loss.
Yeah, well, you mentioned Amari Thomas. That's a guy that likes to stretch that field, averaging nearly 19 yards a catch. On the flip side, though, the leading receiver, wide receiver Tanner Kojal, 36 catches, 3 touches, 6'7" or 6'8", depending on the sources there as well. But also, it's Wegman's security blanket. Nobody in the pack, or in the Big 12, has caught more passes on third down, and that includes Jordan Tyson, than Kojal with 14 catches. So on those key moments, those key downs that can be the difference between getting off the field or watching the Cougs maintain possession, you kind of have a good idea of where that ball's going to go.
Wasn't that a Brock Osweiler thing? Like, is he 6'7", is he 6'8", or 6'6"? I think like the height. I mean, obviously the Gonzaga thing was a deal. So this is just kind of getting some synapses.
You got to check
brain.
Kojal's basketball offers out of high school.
Yeah, there you go. See if he had the Gonzaga offer, because apparently that happened with Brock Osweiler, as we heard numerous times. Quick note back on the wide receivers, so with Johnson out and a lot of focus being put to Thomas, not a ton from the others, Broussard and Young. They have only combined for 6 catches on the year, but they're going to get more of an opportunity this week, so we'll see how that treats them. A little bit more on Kojal. He is 36 receptions to lead the team second on the roster with 350 yards and 3 touchdown catches. He currently ranks second in the nation and leads the Big 12 among tight ends in terms of receptions, and ranks 7th nationally and second in the Big 12 behind Michael Trigg of Baylor among tight ends in receiving yards. This is a really weird, irrelevant thing, but I noticed the guy who leads the nation in receptions among tight ends is a transfer from U of A, Dorian Thomas of New Mexico, and he did jack in Tucson, and now he's like the nation's leading receiver among tight ends. And it seems like they could probably use some offensive.
I mean,
help.
that really, it stands to reason. You leave Tucson and you flourish.
Life gets better for you there. That's the words to live by. So putting a bow on it, talking about some of the bigger picture statistics for the Houston offense, really middle of the pack as far as like national rankings in most areas, if not kind of, maybe below that line. 53rd nationally in rush offense, 62nd in scoring offense, 72nd in total offense, tied for 47th nationally in tackles for loss allowed per game, ranking 58th nationally in third down offense, 60th in sacks allowed per game. So again, a lot of the offensive stats, nothing blows you away, nothing's too terrible. There's a weird coincidental kind of thing in the pass game. Houston is just about right in stride statistically with ASU. The Cougars have thrown for 1,479 yards as a team in 7 games. ASU's thrown for 1,482. So just a 9-foot difference between the pass games of these two teams. Houston ranks 90th nationally. ASU's tied for 88th. One thing that did catch my attention, they do excel when they advance the ball down the field, and this is something that I'm going to talk about a little bit later in the show. Houston ranks 15th in the country in red zone offense, converting on 95.5% of their attempts in the red zone. So again,
what's that like?
That would be nice. Now that's just points. I don't believe that that's a touchdown thing. Just points. So ASU probably has a pretty misleading ranking in that. But again, I digress. So, again, the offense, you have a quarterback that can run, he can throw, and big-time recruiting pedigree coming out of high school, a jack-of-all-trades running back, and a receiver and a tight end that can really get it done. This is really what it boils down to.
Yeah, an offensive line that's had a lot of new faces, 4 new starters there. So that could be something that ASU's success, over the last couple weeks, maybe not, the last 2 specifically, but, in the broader scope of conference play, ASU's pass rush might have an opportunity to kind of get back on track after a couple quiet weeks.
So moving over the defense, nose guard Carlos Allen and linebacker Jalen Garner tie for the team lead with 48 tackles. Garner also has 2 sacks, 5 quarterback hurries, and 2 forced fumbles. Real impressive for Allen to be at the top of the list there. He's their nose guard. You don't really see that level of, guy that might push near 100 tackles from an interior line position. That is something big there. At the jack position, Brandon Mack has a team high 3 sacks. Talk about Rook Brown, about him being an X factor. That name may sound familiar. He played for Wyoming last year, so he visited Tempe.
Is that why he's got a W in front of his name? WROOK.
Possibly, but he played against ASU. It should start with the L, not a W.
There you go. There it is.
But he's been productive. He's one of those guys you talk about, a jack of all trades or a Swiss Army knife on offense, and he's kind of that guy in defense. 29 tackles, 4.5 for loss, 2.5 sacks. He's got an interception. So he's, again, a kind of a familiar face there. I'll talk about more about the team numbers just here in a quick second, but again, kind of similar to the offense, but even more so. Again, there's some guys that with some things that are impressive, but you just look at the numbers, you look at it on paper, there isn't a ton that you don't have any David Baileys of the world, that sort of thing. So again, a solid defense. We'll talk about those numbers there, but more of like a team effort as opposed to 1 or 2 guys that stand out of doing masterful things so far.
Yeah, kind of similar to the Fritz blueprint at Tulane. And the defensive side of the ball is where this year's Cougar team is really is finding most of its strengths. Really active front upside, a lot of multiple looks. And I think one of the reasons you see a guy like Carlos Allen and playing that defensive tackle spot, getting so many tackles, they do a really good job the edges and just kind of keeping things contained, kind of funneling inside. And so they have some edges that aren't going to they're not, there's no David Baileys here, aren't going to set the world on fire, but they do a really good job of setting that edge. And ASU's tackles have struggled in recent weeks, and so that could be a situation where maybe that's an opportunity for that Cougar front to really get after them a little bit. And then of course they have some good size in the middle as well, but they've been really good against the run overall and just have nearly the top 25 in overall yards per play defensively. So yeah, this is not like an elite unit, but a really solid, good unit that is the catalyst why they're 6-1.
Yeah, they're a steady defense. Statistically, they rank in the nation's like top 30 to 40 in a lot of key categories. They rank 22nd in the nation in yards per carry allowed at 3.3. They're tied for 27th in scoring defense at 19 points allowed per game. 31st in total defense, tied for 33rd nationally in team sacks per game, 37th in pass defense, 39th in third down defense. Those are respectable rankings. In some other areas, they rank 43rd nationally in rush defense, tied for 68th in the country in forced turnovers, an area on defense where they appear to struggle, relatively speaking. They're tied for 106th in team tackles for loss per game, which I found kind of odd that they're in the top 25 nationally in yards per carry, but they're like in the bottom 30-ish in the country of tackles for loss per game. So they're maybe not like getting in the backfield a lot, but beyond the line of scrimmage, they don't allow a lot. That's kind of an interesting combination to me.
Yeah, just like 3 yards and that's it. We're good.
Like, we're not getting you behind. We're going to let you get some positive yardage, but 3 is the max. That's where we cut you off.
Yeah, and so some really good some good players there. They have a couple of returning starters in the secondary. That's some good experience there, and it's gonna be a situation where maybe you have Jordan Tyson, who's maybe not playing or limited, or in some degree there. That could be a situation where some of those younger, more inexperienced ASU receivers got to step up against a pretty good Cougar back end, some really good and active linebackers as well. But again, I think it all starts up front with this defense in terms of just kind of keeping things in front.
Now, before we advance and talk about the keys of the game and how we see things shaking out, as I tell you every time, a key for your life is to be a subscriber to devilsdigest.com. When you're a subscriber to Devil's Digest, not only are you getting tons of depth and a great wealth of knowledge on Sun Devil athletics, but you also get access to premium content across both the Rivals and the On3 network. So if you're looking into more information about college sports across the country or recruiting, they've got you covered. All you got to do is be part of the team, be a subscriber to devilsdigest.com. Also gets you access to the best message board in the land, the Devil's Huddle, talking all about ASU athletics. Obviously, things could get very interesting for this football team. You want to be in the know. Basketball season is coming up in just a couple weeks. You want to track everything of what's going on with Bobby Hurley and those Sun Devils on the hardwood. So there's only one place for you if you're a true diehard Sun Devil fan. If you're not already a member of Devil's Digest, you got to get there. That's devilsdigest.com. Also follow that tag on Twitter and pretty much all social media. And if you already got a membership, how about you get an early holiday present for the loved ones in your life and just take care of the whole family? Get them all a subscription to devilsdigest.com. I think we can agree, and I don't know if this is one of your keys. It's not one of mine because I think it's just like an obvious thing is like avoid the hangover. I don't know if you have that specifically, but
I don't. I do have like something that like special teams in red zone, I think, are like kind of the duh. So like, are these our 3, 4, and 5 keys?
Well, you have two. You do have 2 of mine. So okay, so I guess we'll agree that the don't allow a post Texas Tech hangover is kind of an assumption here.
Yeah.
So for me, because there's some statistics, it's not just these things have been real stinky for a while. They got to get better. So I'm going to start with the red zone offense. Obviously, just red zone play in general is going to be a key in this game because Houston, they rank 102nd nationally in red zone defense, but 15th nationally in red zone offense. So what does that tell you? That they might allow some opportunities, but they also might take advantage of them when they have them. So if you're ASU, and again, you're not playing a team that has the defensive players, the caliber of a Texas Tech, and even TCU had some, even Baylor's got some. You just have to find a way to get things going in a positive direction when you got the ball in the red zone, especially deep in the red zone. This has the feel of one of those games that's going to be a little grittier than maybe you'd like, possibly because of just that hangover effect from such a emotional victory. But the red zone thing is going to be a thing until it's not a thing. And like I said, Houston's got some things that appeal to you from the Sun Devil perspective and some things that concern you from the Sun Devil perspective. And you're inclined to trust the defense, that's for sure. But you got to find a way to get 6s and 7s on the board and not 3s when you get the ball that deep in enemy territory.
My first key is for ASU's pass rush, that defensive front. Get to Connor Wegman. Don't let him find that stuff downfield. ASU's still had like some difficulty the last couple of weeks. And you understand Utah is always going to be a tough spot. They basically didn't get anywhere in the opponent's backfield in that game. Bet a little bit better against Texas Tech and were really active. But prior to that, they were one of the best pass rush teams in the country. This is an opportunity where I think they can get that kicked back into gear, get Connor Wegman uncomfortable, force him into some mistakes. And there's some opportunities for the Houston offense to take advantage and maybe make those big downfield plays that can maybe swing the game in a certain direction, change momentum. Those type of plays that really are necessary for upsets to take place. But I think ASU's defensive front, especially coming off the absolutely smoking performance from last week, has an opportunity to really kind of take control in the trenches, get to Wegman, and make his life miserable.
My second key is, an immediate relative of your key there, and that's just to keep the defensive momentum going. I mean, it's hard to think of more of a definitive Jekyll and Hyde pair of outings from the Utah game to the Texas Tech game. Now, granted, you'll take that if it's going from bad to good, as opposed to the opposite. So it's all about keeping that momentum going. We do not know. There's some potential key players we just don't know the health status of, and that's not like a loaded comment. It's not a wink wink, we know but we're not telling you. It's that we don't know. So if Jordan Tyson happens to be limited or even out, like, that's really going to put a lot on this defense, and that's not too tall of a task for them to accomplish. But obviously, to do that, you've got to keep the momentum that you built in that Texas Tech game. I mean, you really should be able to have a successful defensive day against the Houston offense. And so that's something that not only can you likely do it, there may be some scenarios that emerge that make it so you really need to do that. And that would just be, in all ways, you want to see the trajectory continue to go in a positive direction. You don't want to have that nightmare outing against Utah, followed by a dream scenario against Texas Tech, followed by another disappointment, and this back and forth sort of thing. ASU's at a point in its season where if it continues to play similar football to the way it played against Texas Tech in most areas, then this season could become comparably special as last year. And that would mean a lot to Sun Devil fans, and you got to do it game after game. So you got to keep that juice going, especially on defense, because you got so many players that are already banged up on offense. You got to really assert yourself that way.
Key number 2 for ASU: hit the turbo button again and again and again. We have been waiting for Jaren Hamilton to finally reach that fall camp potential, and we got to see that against one of the nation's best defenses. Now, again, with the questions surrounding Jordan Tyson's status, even if he's in or if he's out, Jaren Hamilton should be a key part of this passing attack. That speed is something that ASU can utilize to great effect. That can really put a strain on the back end of a defense, really help keep things open up front for the ground game. I really just want to see Jaren Hamilton keep that momentum. Doesn't have to go for another 100 yards. It'd be a lot cooler if he did, but it just continue to be that downfield threat. Take those shots, keep the defenses honest, and that I think really will help open up the entire offense.
Third and final key for me, it's going to be special teams. ASU has obviously been terrible, but Houston has some deficiencies as well. I'm going to put some numbers on it. It's not just this looks bad and I think and know it is bad. We're going to quantify things here. Net punting. Houston ranks 108th out of 134 teams, and that might sound bad, but ASU would love to be in that territory because the Sun Devils are dead last in the country in net punting. ASU averages 31.88 net yards per punt. Houston's at 37.62. ASU is also 119th in punt return defense, allowing an average of 15.18 yards per return. But Houston ranks 101st in that area, allowing 10.88 yards per punt return. So, and also coincidentally, Houston ranks 106th in kickoff return defense. ASU ranks 107th. So as bad as ASU has been on special teams, and yes, they are worse than Houston, Houston is still pretty bad. However, when you're doing really bad things, you sometimes allow otherwise bad teams and players to execute at a level higher than their standard. So this is an area where it's kind of, in a certain sense, make or break in the realm of ASU can improve things because you're playing a team that struggles in these areas. So that's something you can possibly take advantage of. That's the positive possibility. The negative possibility is a brutal special teams unit or series of units for Houston might have a much better day than it normally would against ASU. So with this all on the line, really looking for I mean, you don't need any more reasons for ASU to make dramatic improvement on special teams. There's enough substance that we've seen so far, but this is the game where it's like, it just makes sense for this to be the game where they take a bit of a step forward. And at this point, it's really the simplest, most basic things, like do a kickoff into the end zone. You do that, get a punt off and maybe have it be 40 yards. I'm not talking about 60, 70, 80-yard bombs, stuff that, you see on highlights. Just a moderately respectable thing. We're keeping the expectations. We're making it a real reasonable ask here, in my opinion.
All right, my final key. So far this year, ASU has proved a few critical things to me, that they're resilient, that they can take a punch, they can rally, they can overcome adversity, whether it's their own or opponent generated. Last week, they proved that they can hang with some of the best and most talented teams in the country. One thing I need to see them do finally is play a full 60 minutes on both sides of the ball. The defense finally got on track. They almost did it. They played, about 3.5 quarters there. The offense, did a pretty good job facing one of the best defenses in the country and rallied at times, but still overall some spots of inconsistent play. I just need to see ASU put it all together at some point. We've been asking this question week in, week out. The talent level is there. I believe the scheme is there. And now the opportunity is there, coming in as a ranked team at home against a quality but not overwhelming opponent. Everything's in place. The Devils, come on now, put 60 minutes together.
So when we were doing our, season preview roundtable type stuff, I think it was pretty much unanimous looking at this one as the trap game, or I think at least you and I agreed on it, if it wasn't like an across the board thing. And it's interesting how the season has unfolded to where it still carries significant importance, but I think it's not as much a trap game as just a good opponent.
Yeah.
It's sandwiched in between the Texas Tech and Iowa State games, and we were thinking, man, those are two teams that sound like they're going to be the cream of the crop, or at least near the top for the Big 12, and Texas Tech is the case. And there's still a lot of games left, so we'll see if Iowa State can get back into form. But that game just is looming a little less intimidating than it was at the beginning of the season or before the season started. So man, this Houston team, really interesting case study, because as we talked about, much improved in a lot of ways. Haven't been terribly tested, other than the 3-4 score loss they had to Texas Tech, and that was in Houston, if I'm not mistaken. They've survived some games. I think they needed overtime to beat Oregon State, if I'm not mistaken, or at least they had a very close game against them, and then they walked off Arizona, and no Sundle fans are going to be mad about that sort of thing. So it's going to be a bit of a proving ground for Houston. For ASU, it's going to be an incredible opportunity to see, is this team hitting its stride? Have they found levels of consistency, or is it going to be more of an erratic kind of back and forth thing with some unpredictable elements? Because ASU is back in a very exciting position, but that is still at this point like a razor thin margin of error, because though I think by the time we get to the conference championship game, there'll be at least one participant, I think, that'll have 2 losses. But to have the second loss now and essentially have to be maybe perfect the rest of the road out, that's a pretty tough ask of ASU. So this is a game that I would anticipate and think it's going to be another sellout. It should be. My goodness. I mean, if they were selling out some of the other games this season, the Texas States of the world, you got to sell this one out, and you figure it's going to be a rocking atmosphere. It's a 5 p.m. kickoff, which you ask me, that's outstanding for this time of year. So man, the table is set for ASU to have another, memorable outing. And when they're playing at home, they're just a different type of creature. And I think this is going to be a battle. I think there might be some signs of a little bit of a hangover, maybe a slow start that is followed by an aggressive, middle or finish to the game. Also, ASU, they just play close games. I mean, well, I guess against Utah, that was a different story, but they don't always win in big fashion, but they are a team that knows how to find ways to win ball games. So whether it's a trap game, whether it's a gut check, whether it's just a solid opponent that they're playing, quite a bit on the line this Saturday in Tempe. And even though I think it'll be a nail biter, even though I think that we're going to exit the game saying, man, some of these issues are still not resolved, we will be exiting the game saying, despite all that, It's another win, one more for the good guys. True outsiders fashion there. ASU wins the ball game 30-24.
30-24. I think ASU is, I think can be really interesting to see how they come out in that first quarter, whether there is a hangover effect. I think this team is in a mindset right now based on the ups and the downs, the ebbs, the flows of the 2025 season so far, that they'll be pretty dialed in. They want to, I think the sense I got from practice today is they're not wanting to, just kind of let that momentum of the Texas Tech win kind of dissipate immediately. But Houston is a good team. They're a quality team. I think that the offense is, solid, but that the defense is really, I think, obviously the strength of this unit. And with some questions of, on the ASU offensive side of things in terms of player availability, or even if they're out there, how effective they're going to be, how close to 100%, whether it's a Jordan Tyson or Sam Levitt, for that matter, or some other pieces at other positions. But ASU at home is just a different animal. They have not lost in the last since the 2024 season began between the Buttes. I don't see that changing anytime soon. I don't think ASU is going to run away with this game, but I think they're going to be maybe after the first half quarter or so. I think that they're going to find a way to get control of this game, maintain control. The Cougars are a good team, but I think they're maybe a year or two away from actually being able to take that next step up of getting a road win of this caliber and being real serious about it. Ultimately, I think ASU's offense does enough. The defense really kind of puts the clamps on the Cougar offense. ASU is just a better and deeper team at this point in each of the program's respective trajectories. ASU 27-17.
Now, before we check in with yet another Sun Devil, got to give a shout out and thank you to Sun Devil Family Charities, a 501c3 nonprofit organization created primarily for the purpose of raising funds to provide financial assistance to Arizona State University alumni, students, staff, and immediate family members adversely affected by medical issues. Their SDFC Cares program allows qualified individuals to request financial assistance by completing an application and submitting verification of medical expenses, which are then evaluated by their patient services committee. Basically, what we're telling you, what we say every week, is that if you or a loved one are experiencing a medical issue that is resulting in financial hardship, and if y'all have a tie to Arizona State University, which you likely do if you're tuning into us here, it's possible that Sun Devil Family Charities might be able to provide some financial assistance in those hard times. Monetary donations are always appreciated and support those in need due to unexpected medical conditions. They also have volunteer and sponsorship opportunities that are also available, and these opportunities and a lot more information can be found on their website at sundevilfamily.org.
All right. So earlier in the show, you heard from some of the offensive playmakers for the Sun Devils. Now let's switch over to defense. Since filling in for Xavier Alford, Boogie Wilson has been an absolute difference maker. So I caught up with him after Tuesday's practice, talk about the keys to his success, how he feeds off the energy of the home crowd, and what to expect from this Houston offense.
All right, so obviously you guys had, going up to Utah, didn't get the result you wanted. So you're coming off of that game, knowing that you have a top 10 team come town. What would you feel is kind of the defensive mindset heading into the last game?
To be physical and show that we are actually physical.
And then, of course, you guys come out, force punts on the first 4 possessions, a turnover on downs on the next one. How did you feel like kind of that physicality and through practice kind of set the tone early on in Saturday's game?
I think more so it's just showing that we're back. Like, we can do this. Like, we can hang with anybody. We're the best of the best. We just got to go out there and prove it and put in the work to go out there and execute on the field.
And then you've been, obviously had with 3 pass breakups, I believe, in that game, flying all over the field. When you look back on that, kind of collective effort against the Red Raiders, what kind of things jump off, on tape as to, how you guys were so successful?
I think we communicated well, and I think more so we were just all fast and physical. Like, that makes up for a lot of mistakes, and,
Now you got a few starts under your belt. How much more comfortable are you feeling in the greater scope of this defense?
I feel very, very comfortable and very, very confident, but I believe in everybody around me, and I know when we come to play, it's going to be a bad day for the offense.
With learning from a guy like Xavier Alford, with his all conference honors, and how impactful has he been on your success so far?
I think very much so. Like, I'm doing good because of him. Like, he's the one that's actually critiquing me, seeing like how I'm doing things, how I'm pedaling, my read, my keys. He's making sure that I see it the way we see it the same. We see it just like Coach Ward see it, and so it's really helped me slow down the game and be faster and play faster.
And another really tough opponent, 6-1, Houston coming to town. What are some of the things that kind of maybe jump out about what the Cougars like to do on offense?
I think they're all technically sound, very, very disciplined. They don't really make a lot of mistakes, so we just have to make sure we're disciplined as well and not making mistakes, so to not give up big plays and stuff.
Facing an offense that has that uses the quarterback a ton in the run game, what kind of challenges does that present?
It presents a lot of challenges. We're one high defense, and when you run in the quarterback, it's that y'all have 1+ in the run game, so we just need to come, fill the gaps and make sure we take up the space so he doesn't have room to create.
You had a sold-out crowd cheering you guys on Saturday. How much of an impact does that energy and that noise have for a defense?
That's very much so impactful. Like, it's hard for us to communicate, but it's also hard for the offense to communicate. And if we just know our calls and know what we're doing, it's more harder for them to communicate, the snap count, all things like that. All that matters. So we're very, very thankful for the crowd.
Ultimately, what are going to be some of the keys to get that win, go to 6-2?
Playing fast, being physical, being aggressive, communicating, making sure we're doing everything right. No MAs, and you got to pursue to the ball.
Now, before we wrap things up here, I want to give you a little something about a new sponsor that we got connected with. Now, we know that ASU's home field advantage is undeniable. And if you're in the market for a new home or want to use the equity in your current home to your advantage like the Devils do when they play in Tempe, there's a name that you can trust and likely a name that you already know who can help you out. More Lending is as ASU as it gets. Why? Because their national director of builder services is none other than one half of the tailgate tag team champions of the world, everyone's great friend PJ Saturno of the legendary Crafty Devils group. PJ and his crew sure know how to get Sun Devil fans ready for ASU game days, and with over 40 years of experience in mortgage lending, PJ and his team will do their absolute best to help you with your mortgage needs. At More Lending, they truly put the customer first and care about helping you out in the best way possible. And they can operate in several states, including Arizona, California, Texas, and many more. And they can help you out whether your needs are on the residential side or the commercial side of things. More Lending can help with a variety of needs. Purchases, refinances, they've got your back. Also, be sure to ask about options for those who are self-employed or looking into investment properties. And they're located in Sun Devil territory in Scottsdale. You can find more information about More Lending on morelending.com. Reach out to see how they can help you. Email PJ at morelending.com or give them a call at 480-329-0983. More Lending, that's MOR Lending, a new kind of mortgage company with tailored lending solutions to meet your needs. PJ Saturno, NMLS number 257912. More Lending LLC, branch NMLS number 2732146.
And PJ is a fellow Moon Valley High School alum, so you can trust him.
As is my lovely girlfriend, Liz. So we have just, my goodness, we need some more Dobson Mustangs to really, bring up our credibility, because Moon Valley, you throw Chris McGahey in that list as well. Man, you got to
TFLO, I believe.
The prestigious alumni section on Wikipedia for Moon Valley is growing.
That's going to do it for this episode of Speak of the Devils. I'd like to thank our amazing guest, Ryan Monceaux of GoCougs.com, ASU wide receiver Jaren Hamilton, safety Boogie Wilson, and center Makua Pule. This week's kickoff will happen at 5 p.m. As Joe mentioned, that's a perfect October kickoff. So no excuse not to be out there at Mountain America Stadium cheering on your Sun Devils. And make sure you stay with us on the social media side of things. You can follow the show on Twitter at SOTD Podcast, on Instagram at Speak of the Devils. Subscribe on YouTube, follow on Facebook, and give me a follow on all things social media at bdenny29.
And you can follow me at Joe Healy 42.
And then once you're done supporting all of our amazing sponsors, make sure you drop us a 5-star review on the podcast platform of your choice. Joe and I will be back next week as we review what happened against the Cougs and look ahead to a Big 12 title game rematch in Ames.